Hello and welcome to the Wonkette live chat. How are you guys doing today? I'm not that you can answer me. Why did I even say that? But I'm Robin Panacchia, and this is the lovely and talented Stephen Robinson, and we're going to talk about stuff.
I think people can respond in the
Oh, I know. I was just teasing. Like,
and they will tell you. We want to encourage
yes,
interaction
talk
and
to us.
engagement. So, Robin, you had written today about the furry situation, and I think you had also written about Ted Cruz is like response to a fake Atlantic article, which I think is sort of one in a trend
It's
of a
well,
lot
that's
of
the
stuff that
thing. They're
people.
all just like I actually do think that we need to be hammering this as much as possible because they're constantly falling for all of this like bullshit and then going, "Oh, well the reason that we uh you made us do it. You're so terrible that we had to believe these completely insane things. Look at what it says about society that we believe dumb shit." And like, no, what it says about society is that you're gullible and that you base probably all of your beliefs on stupid things that you have no idea about. I find
It's
it first of
literally
all,
Nazism, right? Like the idea if you believe the worst about people and your reactions to that is because of how awful they are.
yeah,
And I mentioned to you, I think Friday when you'd written this, was that his response was very much, I mean, that's how I kind of grew up, where I had teachers who, I remember a teacher in second grade telling me, like, I don't believe anything you tell me. I think you're always going to be a liar.
is this the
And
thing that
just
you were talking about before?
no, that was a
Oh,
different racist teacher.
yeah.
So, but I think I was about 16 before a white authority figure was actually not overtly racist. It's
I'm not surprised. I mean, honestly, like
there,
I actually,
but white people were very nice on television, so I remained. So unlike Ted Cruz, I kind of remained sort of optimistic about white people. I was like, well, look, the folks I read about in books, Batman seems a nice guy. The Gene Kelly is wonderful. So I'm sure it's not all my experience is just somewhat unique.
those are really like two interesting choices there, I have to say.
That sums up
Batman and Gene Kelly, yes.
young Stevens
They're okay guys.
media situation. But yes, they believe the worst about so it's dehumanization, and you
Oh, I
can't
think
get
a lot
past
of it
that
is
dehumanization.
I think a lot of it is that they are stupid. Like that's it's really not even like the reason that they believe we're so like terrible is because they're stupid. Like, and it's like a mean thing to say, but like that's really ultimately what it comes down to.
Sure.
Like our entire freaking history is filled like with people who believe incredibly ridiculous, stupid things, making life miserable for everyone else because of how they believe stupid things. Like witch trials. We had witch
Yeah.
trials because people were like, you know what? Those ladies doing math or science or taking care of babies, I'm pretty sure they're doing spells and magic. So we should kill them.
Well,
Um,
isn't but the root of that belief was in a sense of misogyny or
mhm.
opportunism, and such you wanted these women's property and land. So I think often it tends to come to a sense of the people I want to dehumanize or the people I am inclined to fear. It's just sort of, and Democrats get trapped in this because we're very close to losing the governor's race in Oregon because for years, since the past 2 years, and you'd written about the unpersoning
Yeah.
of Portland and Seattle when Bill Barr named it a anarchist jurisdiction in 2020, and that's easily dismissed as well. That's silly. Like there's actually in a couple square blocks in Portland, there is a homeless crisis in the city, but it's not the city's not literally on fire, but people were inclined to believe it because they want to believe
Oh
the
no, they
war.
believe that cities all over were set on fire and have still not recovered, because that's what they hear on Fox News.
So yeah, I mean, I think that that's what you kind of, that's the challenge you have. I guess we should probably, I dread even getting into this, but the furry, can you just clarify
What
what
do they
people
not know what
believe?
a furry is? Like how? How does anyone who has been on this earth for the last 20 years confused about what a furry is? Am I wrong? No, I am not. There have been 85,000 television specials, documentaries, everything on them. They wear mascot outfits. They do not pee in litter boxes.
Well, it's like of a piece, right? So believing that they are, that children identify as cats, and so we accommodate them by letting them
Because
use
they want to
mascot
denigrate
costumes.
trans kids.
Mhm.
And they want to be able to say, oh, these people have gone too far. They, and now they're letting kids be cats and pee in litter boxes. They'll just let anything happen. It'll be anarchy. And so they're going with that just to also sort of make it as absurd that someone is trans as it would be for them to believe they are a cat,
Yeah,
which
well,
is what they want.
that's a long stand. That's sort of Bill Maher level of commentary. But I think, as I recall, and maybe I'm missing something, the fact that there were litter boxes in some schools related to potential of
Well, it was
active
just actual cat litter.
shooting.
It was because school shootings. So
I was unaware of this, so maybe I was missing that. So this seems like, well, was that a missed opportunity to sort of parallel what Republicans do with grabbing something and making it, hammering on it? As a parent, I would have been horrified to hear that this is what we're not going to do anything about guns, but we're just going to presume that there's going to be a situation where terrified children have to hide
yeah.
and urinate and, use cat litter because they're gonna. And so that if you were to hammer that, that would, again, I don't think that was ever hammered as a part of a failing of our gun policies. And then what happened was that Republicans then leveraged it to attack trans kids because they've been attacking education for a long time and really doing some systemic work in destroying public schools, or the whole belief in public schools. The idea is that all public schools are
Oh yeah.
just
Well,
a woke fest.
they've
And
been
that's
trying
an
to get
issue
rid
here
of
in
public
Oregon.
schools forever because they want charter schools. They want corporations to own the schools and profit off of them.
But speaking of they believing the worst, I know you had, I think, an interesting reaction because there was an article from early this week from Bernie Sanders about what we should focus on the election, and I think a lot of people responded, perhaps assuming he was saying that abortion rights don't matter.
Well, here's the
What's this
interesting
article?
thing. They changed the headline of that article after it was published. It was the original title was "If Democrats Want to Win This Time." So I'm getting a lot of feedback on the thing, and it's confusing me while I'm talking. I might have to X out for a second and come back. But in the meantime, it was originally, if Democrats want to win in midterms, they should concentrate on the economy. It then got switched to, and they made the headline, if Democrats want to win, they shouldn't talk about abortion. So they're whatever. No, they have to something other than abortion, or abortion can't be the only thing they talk about, which is true. But yes, we should be talking about the economy, and people, naturally flipped out about that because they think, for some reason that Bernie Sanders only cares about the economy and hates all social issues, which is not true. And that's not what he was saying. He was like, it needs to be on the front burner, but also let's talk about these things. And I think the reason for that is that you have heard some people say, especially in the beginning, like, oh man, abortion is going to help us win. And it's true. But a lot of people did kind of sound like they were going to, like that's all Democrats had to do. Like that was the wise thing to do. And it's really not.
Sure. Well, there's the belief, this is longstanding in a way. This goes back to 2016 with Clinton against Trump, because Trump was so terrible. There would be this flood of, I call them the Susan Collins Republicans, who are not going to, um, Robin's going to come back, but who are not going to vote for Trump or Republicans because their social policies are so
Sorry.
terrible. And that just didn't happen in 2016. Like Trump did as well with, and we can address
I
that
mean, that's
issue
what they said was
later.
going to happen with Bush.
Yes, this grand wave of, I think I always call it like certain moderate Democrats who have the conservative ant, and they're convinced that this is going to flip their conservative ant, but they don't necessarily think about, like, as I've said, a sort of a guy who, and I think everyone should care about reproductive freedom, but there are people who don't particularly, that's not their number one issue,
Yeah.
but they're not going to vote against. They're not going to be, oh, Raphael Warnock supports abortion rights, I can't vote for him. They're more like, should I vote? I don't care. Oh, you're going to do this for me, I'll turn out. And I don't care what gets someone to vote, for us.
No,
So you
I
need to have
also
the
don't
whole,
care. Like, I'm not like, oh, I want you to vote for us, but only for the right reasons. Like, I really don't care.
you have the whole
I
Chinese
actually do
menu
hope
there.
that they're like, Democrats are better suited to address the current economic issues. And that's actually what he was
Mhm.
saying.
And it's one of the number one issues. It
Yeah,
became, and they
that's what
weren't
people say.
able,
Like,
Republicans are able to say, I want this to be the number one issue, and I'll make it that issue. They made it with education in Virginia, and they made it with crime, but they're clear. So we're going to make this about crime. And there was like, oh no, it's going to be abortion, and this will. And I saw in the comments, and someone said, oh, if only the Dobbs decision to come out a month later. And it's like, it wouldn't matter if the equivalent for Republicans, if it had come out in the summer, they would hammer it, hammer it, hammer it. So that would be the only issue.
Yeah.
So there's multiple issues now. The perception of inflation, obviously in Oregon, it's about inflation and the homelessness crisis. And I think what's frustrating, so bear with me a bit. What's a little frustrating is there's this sense of, look, I was not a Sanders supporter in 2016. I am not a part of the fan club, but there are folks who have this sort of, because they dislike, and it's hard for me to comprehend this, my Vulcan mind, they don't like the guy. So he will come out and say something that, I just saw you retweet the Never Trumper who said the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? I just saw you retweet the conservative Democrat who said the same thing. Oh, we're too woke on social issues. We need to. If James Carville said it, it's okay. But if it's Bernie Sanders, oh my God, and that is just a very strange thing to me, because it's not like he's saying something specific. I could get it, right? If he's saying something very specific that no one else is saying, you disagree with, but he is literally often saying things that everyone's like, oh wow, we need to get white working class. That's why we have Biden, right? We need to get these folks in this. And when he says something about appealing to those voters, oh my God, Sanders is a racist because he says we need to get white working class people. Black people are working class and Hispanic people are working class. And it's like, well, yes, we know that. But again, everyone from Tim Ryan to Abigail Spank, every one of your centrist darlings have been saying we're not doing enough to win over white. But when he says it, it's somehow the worst thing in the world. And that is like, everyone will find every reason why there was a comma here or a word there that makes what he said different from what Abigail Spangberger said, or Lisa Slotkin, but it's not. Am I missing something? It's often a lot of the same
because people are bitch eating crackers. Like, really, I mean, honestly, like, that's it. There's, that's really, I think, what it comes down to for most things. Like, they don't like him. They would like him to go away. We did not pre-record. We're here. Hi. Now I'm all gagoots. Give me a second. And now I'm having the freaking feedback issues again. Someone cursed me. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to pop back out again. I don't know how to.
And now we wait. Let's look at some comments.
Okay, there we go. All right. Sorry. What was I even saying? So they don't like Bernie Sanders. They're married to not liking Bernie Sanders, and everything that Bernie Sanders says is going to annoy them forever. They're annoyed by the left. Yes. Yes, you did, Leah. You broke the thing. It's you.
But it's such a Cassandra syndrome with Sanders, right? Because you don't have to like the guy to. Because I remember back, it was Matt Yglesias laughing at the idea that why does anyone think Sanders could win Michigan during the 2016 primary? And then there was the upset, which could have been interpreted as there's a considerable either anti-Hillary Clinton vote, not like everyone loves Sanders, but anti-Hillary Clinton vote, or there are issues that you've written about within the Rust Belt. But again, we were laughed at if anyone ever suggested the Rust Belt was in. Everyone was like, Trump's going to lose by 400 electoral votes. It will be game over by 8 p.m. because there's a blue wall. And so we could have learned from that, but we didn't because we had to somehow ignore that because it was Sanders, like something there.
Well, I think what happened a lot during 2016, and, I saw this a lot, mostly not so much publicly, but like in a lot of groups I was a part of at the time, Facebook groups, which I do not do anymore. There were a lot of people who would genuinely say that, you can't do anything economic until you fix people and they are not sexist or racist anymore. And because, no matter whatever you do that's economic will, be tainted by that. And I get it, but I also don't think it's a good idea. And that's not necessarily what you want to campaign on.
No,
it's the same. It's the same thing to me on some level as, Republicans being like, well, we have to vote this way because we don't like you as people, and we would like you to stop tweeting what you tweet. And no, politicians are not in charge of that, just like politicians are not in charge of making people not sexist or racist. However, ironically, a lot of economic policies can ameliorate the shittiness of people.
Well, yeah, there's a democratic belief that a lot of the policies Sanders was saying, like he's some crazy leftist, and I'm not crazy about identifying with socialism because being a Gen Xer and having learned from Ferris Bueller that all isms are bad, but his working class rhetoric was somewhat popular at the time. And I've read that there were studies, this is shown through data, like after Iowa, when he was unexpectedly strong, the Clinton campaign made a distinct choice to say, oh, we're going to own social issues. That's what we're going to lean on social justice, even though that had been one of the weak areas for Obama amongst, again, that Democratic voters. Like if you go online, people want to pretend these voters didn't exist. They were like, every one of these voters were all racist. It's like, but they voted for Obama. We were winning those states. But, the perception was that Hillary was so focused on that by contrast, Sanders was moderate on certain, he was perceived as moderate by a lot of folks in the that's how he wound up winning in Michigan and so forth. And there is such an investment in not believing this, even though you could show people the polling data, you can show people, but they just don't want to believe it. So that's always weird to me. It's almost like climate denialism. So you will post about Sanders is actually a pretty popular politician, and then it's like, well, no, I hate him with the heat of 1,000 suns. It's like, well, we didn't say everyone liked him.
Consistently either the first or second or tied most popular politician for the last 6 years.
Yes, it's sort of the Thriller phenomenon. There was a very annoying habit, like when I was in college, and people would be like, they would say, well, Thriller is one of the most successful albums ever. It's like, I didn't buy Thriller. It's like, well, no one ever said that.
Yeah,
everyone bought that album or that everyone likes. We're just saying that.
How could anyone not like Thriller though? Although,
there's like
Sorry.
and it's just such a weird, it's such a
Sad
weird
though is probably
thing. Like they're even, and never Trumpers don't like Sanders. I get that. And so going back to that, I remember, so Mandela Barnes is polling
yeah.
behind Ron Johnson. Arguably one of the reasons why specifically was because of crime, of how they had tied him to crime and some
Oh,
other issues.
because they're like, hey, it's bad crime. You know what that's a dog whistle for?
Oh
Black
yeah.
people. Like,
And so everyone freaked, like Sanders is now going to campaign with him, and it was like, oh my God, he's ruined and I saw this in some of the Wonkette comments. It was like, well, no, that's not how you appeal to the middle, blah, 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 as if that's what Republicans have been doing ever. But what's weird about this, and it's twofold, it's like, one, Sanders perceives socialism. You've already said he's not your social issue guy. He's the economic guy, right?
yeah.
So why do you think him coming and campaigning with Mandela Barnes is equivalent to, oh no, Sanders is not the defund the police, open up cash bail guy. Like that's not what
Oh,
people
actually, no,
really
he
think
does
of it. He
actually oppose
supports some
cash
of those
bail.
issues,
Yeah.
but that's not that.
Cash
If you were
bail
to
is
ask
actually a
someone,
very big thing for him, I will
yeah,
say, like,
but
which
that's
is, it's
not
a
what
big thing for me
anyone is
too. So,
afraid of him of coming in and saying. They're afraid that he's going to be the crazy socialist.
yeah.
But that's not what's happening. And they're also were like, Sanders didn't campaign hard enough for us in 2016 in Wisconsin. It's like, well, do you want him to campaign for you or not? Do you want him to be the team player or just go away
It's
until we
Schrodinger's leftists. We can never do anything right. And yes. And yes, Darren, you are correct. He's like, Bernie would be a moderate if he were in almost any other country on the planet. Like he would be a full-on moderate because he supports normal, moderate things that are not crazy in other countries. Like, yay, everyone can have healthcare.
But yes, it's sort of this view as this is the worst. But like, again, what he was saying is not so, like, I don't get, because to me, you've got to figure out what you actually mean. So everyone was sort of like, oh, well, if it's the squad, this is too woke. Oh no, they're talking about racial justice and police brutality and whatever, and not about economic or kitchen table issues. So
Yeah.
when even Pelosi says, no, we're not going to talk about Trump in 2018, or we're not going to
Yeah.
talk about, and I think even she had said, like, let's not, it can't just be abortion. We need to talk about actual kitchen table issues. Everyone's like, oh, well, it's Pelosi, we understand, or whatever. And he gives the same, almost like it's similar talking points, but because it's him, everyone acts as if he's gone rogue. Whereas going rogue would be appearing at the McConnell Center and talking about how great Mitch McConnell is. And that's Kristen Sinema. That's not Bernie Sanders. He's not necessarily promoting those things. So that also leads us, I think, in a way, to the news today when the crazy anti-Semitic message from Donald Trump.
It's actually like it was actually, hold on, I gotta switch back out again. I've got the weird thing again.
Yes, he would have been considered more mainstream Dem prior to. There's like a sense of, a lot of people believe that
I do not know what
AOC,
is happening with that.
as I promised, I will get you a new webcam for Christmas. There's this belief that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others were spontaneous bad liberals or something extreme, whereas I think that's all connected to Sanders and their
But like,
perception
we
to
were
Sanders.
around. We just weren't participating in the Democratic Party. It's
Well,
really what it was. If
no,
they
I
weren't the
mean,
truth.
Ted Kennedy was pretty liberal. He was just part of the establishment, and he had supported. I mean, if AOC and even I would say Ilhan Omar, Tlaib were a generation older, they would have been part of a Kennedy wing. But
Although
once Kennedy
they're still
left,
women of color, so they wouldn't even had a bathroom as women in those times. I forget when they first like finally put women's bathrooms anywhere around the Senate.
yes, that's probably
So
also where.
that might not have worked out so well. I'm just gonna say,
Yes, I
but
think, well, beyond what they, I mean,
yeah.
that's superficial. Their actual policies are not that extreme. I mean, their
Well, the thing that I
existence.
think that we should be hammering is that a huge part of the reason for, crime is Republican policies. Like all of their policies actually do lead to more crime, not, there's no amount of tough on crime. Like we all learned from the drug war. We all learned from everything that there's no amount of like tough on crime or anything that anyone can do to like make things better. It doesn't make things better. It makes things worse. Like we saw it making things worse. We saw people go to prison and stay there for a super long time, don't get any rehabilitation or, anything. And they come out and they have no opportunities. And so, oh my gosh, recidivism. All of their policies, including the fact that, they don't think people deserve to get paid that much, increase crime. The fact that they are okay with economic inequality, that increases
Mhm.
crime. If anyone's so like scared of crime, which, let's be real, they're not.
Uh, and I want to get back to Trump's
Sorry.
anti-Semitism while I still have you here before you hop off again. But the
I don't
Tulsi
know what's wrong with everything today.
Tulsi Gabbard had left the Democratic Party, and again, I'd seen the similar thing of people refusing to acknowledge that she was progressive. Obviously, her she
Well,
to the
on
extent
board, yeah.
she's she's homophobic.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know if I would definitely use the term clearly promoting white supremacist theories and so forth. But again, a lot of these same people were the ones who said, well, FDR, your progressive heroes are racist and homophobic or whatever. So it's not like they suddenly are unable to comprehend those two
This
things.
is the thing. People can have, you know, a variety of views from various spectrums.
Oh yeah. Well, the
That's
reason I felt that was important to focus on was because Gabbard's record was on certain economic issues not that far extreme from squad members.
yeah.
And where
One of the
she
things I
differed,
actually did not disagree with her on.
was
Yeah.
on LGBT
Social
issues,
issues. Yeah.
trans issues. And so that is what is so key to right wingers. That's what gets you on Carlson.
Yeah.
So it's not just that Carlson loathes AOC because of, I can list certain economic issues where Tulsi
Mhm.
Gabbard voted for and still supports. It's more that um, she actually believes in social justice. And that's a very key
Mhm.
issue. And I think pretending that she was somehow always a stealth right winger is weird because it makes you, like, well, she was always a Russian plant. It's like, okay, well, why did you make the Russian plant the co-chair of the DNC pre-Sanders? So she's
Yeah.
not someone that Sanders stupidly elevated. I would see some folks on Twitter saying Sanders has to answer for the prominent role he gave to Tulsi. And it's like, well, no, a lot of that was before, arguably, he was actually doing the whole kind of
Yeah.
establishment stuff by bringing her in because she was, and Pelosi had said she was the future of the party and whatever. So, and her issues with queer people had been known, and blue dogs have existed. So that
Yeah.
had been recognized. Pelosi and Clyburn had supported a Texas congressman who's anti-choice and was
Yeah.
anti certain social issues. So this is not out of nowhere. Um, but I think this does get us back to, because I do think it all does connect to Trump's escalating vicious rhetoric, which should not be surprising for if I lived in New York, a lot of his his, it's not a surprise that a guy like that is both racist and anti-Semitic. You
No,
know,
no,
everyone's
it's
gonna
not.
be shocked,
Although
shocked.
I will say, like, um, in my personal experience, people outside of the East Coast are a little bit more anti-Semitic, but in the way that like they've never met a Jewish person before and are like, "You're from New York. Are you Jewish? Is that how things work?" Um, so like I'm from like Western New York. Um, but but I'm not surprised that he has those views. And, because what he's saying is that, like, oh, the American Jews are not grateful to me for how much I support Israel. And in Israel, they would elect me prime minister because of how much I support Israel. And they don't care enough about Israel, blah, blah, blah. And, yeah. So
No, it's anti-Semitic. I
there
mean,
might be some other things that he's maybe said that might make people less inclined to vote, like Jewish people less inclined to vote for him. Like all of the words that have come out of his mouth ever. And the reason why evangelicals are more appreciative of his efforts with Israel is because they think that Jesus is coming back and they need Israel to do something in order for Jesus to come back.
yeah, well, it's not a shock. This escalation rhetoric is not a shock. So everything kind of goes, he was openly racist about Mexicans and openly
Yeah.
racist about Black people in very distinct and vicious ways. And that has escalated. And, you know, on a just strictly practical level, these are groups, Jewish people, American Jews, along with Blacks and Latinos, are not groups that vote in large numbers for Republicans.
Yeah.
So, Republicans tend to always other people who don't vote for them in large numbers. I mean, they used to use code, like Ted Cruz famously used the New York values code.
Yeah.
Even a lot of anti-lawyer rhetoric, if you dig down into it,
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
is just rooted. Why do we hate lawyers? Even though it's just like it's anti-Semitic code. I don't just say that just because my wife is a lawyer and I love her, but it's one of those things of just like it's understood that when she goes someplace, people will just pepper her with anti-lawyer jokes, and her brother, who's a cop, is sort of put on a pedestal because every
Yeah.
cops are wonderful. So everywhere I go, it's like I don't know where you get the idea that cops ever have to worry about their egos. I think cops are beloved in
Oh,
most
yeah.
circles. But it's my poor wife who everyone is just like, yeah, one more lawyer, great. And but anyway, what usually kept a lot of Republicans when I was younger, generations ago, from being more overtly racist, and I would say in the ways that Trump or Marjorie Greene and Bobart with her anti-Muslim rhetoric was because, oh, this will alienate suburbanites. Like the country club Republicans
Yeah.
prefer code. They don't want to go full
Yeah.
cross burning.
They don't
But
want to be
Republicans,
gauche
yeah, and now they don't care.
about
Like
it.
either the Republicans who would have already become never Trumpers for many reasons,
Yeah.
like, or if they're even Jewish, like Bill Kristol, aren't voting. He's no longer part of the Republican mainstream. But otherwise, there's no need anymore because
Yeah.
whatever Trump has said, and like Marjorie Greene is speaking at white nationalist events. She's using rhetoric. Tommy Tuberville, he's not been censored. He's not been called
I
out on the
also
Senate
don't
floor for his
really get
racist
where
stuff.
people really did get the idea that people in the suburbs were necessarily like so moderate. Because I've lived in the suburbs.
No,
I mean, technically
it's
where I live
all
in
a matter
Massachusetts
of
is more of a rural
language.
area, but like,
You like the Reagan language, but it's not
yeah.
like Trump. It's gauche, right? Like, and people have said like Trump just has no dog
Yeah.
whistles. He's just openly racist and kind of, despite being he's Southern sheriff, or again, if you lived in New York, he's a lot of.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of guys like Trump.
Yeah.
That it was actually, as I've said before, that racism was far more in my face in certain social circles than there were in the South. Again,
Oh,
class-wise,
yeah. No,
in
absolutely.
certain certain, people of a similar, let's say, economic class would not be as overtly racist to me, even though it was understood that I needed to be at least X amount of feet away from the neighborhood or whatever. Unless on Halloween, they loved giving out candy to us on Halloween in the very wealthy neighborhoods. So
Really?
yeah.
I, I
Now I wouldn't advise a child doing that. You're gonna get shot. I would not go to those now. But back then it was like, yeah, you're gonna score full size Snickers bar.
well, yeah, that's where you have to go to anyway. Like we had maps. We were extremely hardcore about Halloween. Like, we were pillowcase kids. We were not little jack-o'-lantern kids. But
yeah, I mean, there's no consequence. So the consequence would have had to have been that Marjorie Green is overtly racist. We can't support her, even if the option is a liberal. We can't support Lauren Boebert. We can't support.
But the more people say those things out loud, the more acceptable it becomes. I honestly think that there is a chance that Trump saw what Kanye was saying this week and was like, oh, guess it's okay for me to say this. Although I think he has called American Jewish people ungrateful before, like to him personally.
Oh yeah.
I think that has happened. I think he's also said that Black people were ungrateful to him. So like that is a tactic that he has employed before.
I think it was just suddenly it was like, oh, this was a line you can't cross. And it's like he's crossed every line and you've done nothing. So like, and again, the more of your, let's say, country club Republicans, the more they become Democrats, and it's all Marjorie Taylor Greene Republicans and the MAGA hats. It's like more open anti-Semitism for everyone. Who cares? We say this about Jewish people as well. And so,
people are way more, people like can be very weirdly, openly anti-Semitic in ways that like is just like shocking.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, there was a whole freak out over all about the Benjamins, using a trope that Ilhan Omar had said. And this is, of course, pretty much without any trope, is this openly anti-Semitic and nothing even for the Kanye folks. So people have sort of defended Kanye or voted around, like even Ben Shapiro has been like, okay, well, that's anti-Semitic, but all
the anti-Semitic stuff is bad, but the other stuff, A+.
What does he even respect Kanye about anyway? He doesn't respect rap music, right?
Any celebrity on their side. They don't care what celebrity it is. Like,
well, that's my point. Like, he's just like, you're not, I don't respect your music, because Ben Shapiro has openly said rap music is not music, because that's one of the whitest things you can do. But I just love that he's an asshole. that's my appeal. So
you know what I will say though, and I was thinking about this today, it's only tangentially related, but I swear to God, Kanye could keep saying stuff like this and people could still be, like, oh my God, everything he says is horrible. No one will actually ever hate him as much as they hate Kim Kardashian because she wants attention. And because really, there never will be like that amount of like the internalized anger and vitriol. Which I don't even watch the Kardashians, but like I'm so creeped out by how angry people are at this woman for existing. Like it freaks me out. But yeah, that was just that is my 2 cents on that.
So there was the Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock debate this Friday, which was, and I've written this, and folks at Wonkette and folks online get very upset if I say this, because I think a lot of people want to believe in the West Wing dream of the guy, I'm going to dismantle this ignoramus Republican with facts and data. And they have all those examples of that occurring. And it just doesn't, like, oh, here's Jed Bartlett, like, showed how the fundamentalist is full of crap because he knows all these Bible verses that show that she's full of crap. It's like, well,
That's
no,
like the one thing I've ever seen from the West Wing, because it's like,
yes, because people
yeah,
believe that they believe that that can actually happen and work,
yeah,
and it won't. Um, so it his the media responded as I predicted, which was like he remained upright and insisted that, oh, he exceeded expectations. And you know, I have long
yeah.
argued
New
that,
York Times just like, it's kind of a draw.
yeah,
Like,
and look, I've long argued that, on the show Scooby Doo had a hillbilly cousin called Scooby Dumb, and I was like,
I
well,
did not know that.
I wouldn't call him
That's a
Scooby
deep cut.
Dumb because at the end of the day, he's still a talking dog. Like he's not as eloquent as, you know, Fred or some of the other, but he's still walking on his hind legs
Yeah.
and speaking like that's Scooby Einstein. That's how I would have built him. This is my talking dog. So I'd be very impressed. But I see no reason to grade Herschel Walker, actual
On the
mammal.
talking dog curve.
Yes, there's no. Well, he's upright and talking. Like,
He's conscious.
like it is just sort of like I'm not gonna take him. I did not build Herschel Walker in my laboratory, so I'm gonna take him out and dance while performing, putting on the Ritz with him. Herschel, your turn. Putting on the Ritz. Like, wow. Everyone's very excited because
Yeah.
look, you couldn't make a Herschel Walker in your laboratory. I did. No, he's an actual human, just like all of us. And it is just
Yeah.
like the fact the idea that people on insulin, diabetics need to eat
They could
right.
just eat better. Like,
Like,
no.
and a lot of it is just ignorant. But I'd warned everyone that Warnock was not going to be able to dismantle him. Warnock was not going to be able to get any
No.
sort of viral meme, so he doesn't even get like because ultimately, and we're all guilty of this in our social media world, but his reasoned response about Medicaid expansion is not going to go viral. What's going to go viral, and we did this in our own YouTube thumbnail, is Herschel Walker with his, Fisher Price first FBI badge.
Hey,
And
no, to
that
be
goes,
fair, I'm pretty sure he got that at Chuck E. Cheese. Probably really good at skee ball.
yeah, like it's a skee
Like,
ball reward. And so that
yeah,
goes viral. Liberals make fun of it, but it's not changing the vote of any swing voter. And you've got Republicans saying, okay, and then liberal are like, well, he like there's one Atlanta Journal-Constitution reporter said he was
oh
getting
yeah,
frightened texts from Democrats like, oh, like, what did you expect? They were stunned. They was like,
yeah.
but they billed him as Scooby Dumb, but he's talking. Oh my god! They're like, well, yeah, no, like no. You really lowered your
Well,
expectations
no,
to
and
a
I think that
remarkable
like the
degree.
campaign probably did that to some extent on purpose, so that like, they're like lowering the expectations so much that like he did anything besides stand there and pick his nose, people are going to be like, yes, yes, good job,
If
sir.
he had
Uh,
picked his nose, I think that would have been an evidence of how he's a common clay man of the South. I don't know.
yeah,
It was a total lose-lose proposition for Warnock. I would not have stood on the same stage with him. And, you know, Katie Hobbs, who's running in Arizona, and she even has a better reason. She refuses to debate, and I
yeah,
agree completely with her. She refuses to debate Carrie Lake because she's an election liar. It's like why would I get on stage with a candidate who doesn't believe the election in 2020 was fair, who spreads countless
yeah.
lies and won't even say, and she did again refuse to say that she will accept the results of the election. She's someone who's going to help promote violence, inevitable
Yeah.
violence, if I win towards me and towards others, I'm not going to get on the same stage for it. There's not a discussion of policy. And how does the media respond? Which is, well, why don't you want to? Are you afraid of having a discussion when people disagree with you? And it's like why we don't debate anti-Semites. Like,
Yeah.
what's the point?
Or creationists.
Yeah,
Like,
that you gain nothing from. Like, oh well, you got me. Like
yeah.
this proves the Genesis story. I've got an Adam's apple and you don't. It's like what? Like so you don't like how do I debate that? So you can't debate with this person. And also you get on the stage and the moderators don't even have your back because they're not judging it as an actual like American Idol has better rules, right? Like instead, it's just like they come out and she could like bring a ball peen hammer and beat the crap out of Katie Hobbs, and they'll be like, okay, now we all agreed, our campaigns agreed that there'd be no beating, and then the
Yeah.
media would be like, well, Katie Hobbs doesn't seem to be able to take a punch, start to bleed. Like so you gain nothing from engaging with these
Yeah,
folks.
no. And all that ends up happening is you give them a platform for like their incredibly ridiculous views. Um,
Yes, because all Carrie Lake wants to do is to go viral, and all like Walker really wants to do is to justify his existence. So I could make Republicans feel not so bad about voting for me. That was his sole goal. Democrats can make fun of him, but like, okay, you can only vote against him once, and then most of us can't vote for him. So what was literally gained? What is your objective? We all know Herschel Walker should not be. I was there at the start, like the guy who
yeah.
the football, the football player who's barely articulate probably should not be a U.S. senator. So, yeah, I'm done with with debates. I just don't see the gain. But everyone will show
I
me
think debates are a stupid way to discuss issues to begin with. Like it's not a good system.
That is
Yeah.
true. Yeah, what would you prefer?
Um, I think town halls work really well. I think
Yeah.
discussion, like even just like more discussion based things. Like I don't think that debates work very well as anything.
I would agree with that, and to the extent that I would say one like the debate format might be even relevant, and even then I'm a hard sell would be during a primary race.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
ultimately, you and I agree big picture. It's gonna be on some of the margins. So if I'm like a voter, primary voter, I'd be like, well, I don't know. I kind of like Steven. I kind of like Robin. Who's gonna? And we're selling. Here's how we
Yeah.
can advance this agenda. Here's why I'm different, and here's why that matters. But by the time you get to like, then it's more like I think women are people. I don't. Okay, like there's no debate there. You're debating like huge. I believe in furries. It's like okay,
Yeah.
well you don't. You're not existing in. It's like existing in different realities. And then when you're up against a pathological liar like both Herschel Walker and Carrie Lake, I mean, what can you do? Where are you going? It's just nowhere. So
I don't think there's any way to win there. Like I don't.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, I just where are your new
no
voters?
matter what, they're just gonna make things up. Like they're not bound to any kind of reality or like shared understanding of the world.
So what else has been going on? So as I sit here still in a short sleeve shirt, it was 84 degrees in Portland yesterday. It's like expected to be about 85 today. I've yet to activate my hoodie for the season.
It's not a hoodie, it's like a semi thing. I don't know. It's a throwover thing.
Clear climate change issues resulted. You'd covered yesterday about the
crab.
Sorry, not clams. Clams are fine.
I'm really upset about the crabs. They're going away. They're disappearing, and it's pretty much like they tried to throw in a couple like other possibilities, like maybe there was a disease, and we'll never know what the disease was because they're all gone.
No, I mean, they were like
but
last year in the Pacific
but it's
Northwest, there were crabs that were like boiling
yeah.
alive.
Well, no,
Like,
they weren't boiling alive. They were
no, no,
okay.
no, no, in the
No,
Pacific
because
Northwest,
they're Arctic
literally,
animals.
yeah, they literally, there were some that literally were boiling alive in the Sound, because it gotten so hot. So it is something that someone just, but so that's what I recall that from last year, because I remember reading that and then having my wife and I had oysters somewhere. We're like, should we be getting oysters now at this time when it's like
I don't know.
100 degrees?
I love oysters.
No, we're both fans, but we want to make sure that
I
they are
like, yeah. And you're in a good place for them. I'm in Chicago. It's not a good place for oysters, and I eat them anyway because I live on the edge.
No, there's a place near in Seaside, Oregon. There's a place we go to that you can get crab. They'll bring them out for you, and they're still alive and trying to desperately climb out of the thing that you're weighing them in, and then you say, no, I want that one, and that one, and then they go. And
I mean, I grew up picking up my own lobsters, because we did, New England, there's more lobster than crab. But usually when I get crab, they bring it to me in a bag with shrimp and also corn on the cob and potatoes and a lobster tail, which is generally pretty disappointing. Like, I don't know why I keep getting the lobster tail. I keep hoping it's going to be like home, but it's not. But
no, I don't think so. I tend to get I get a lobster under only certain conditions.
Yeah.
And my favorite form of the lobster is the in roll form. So I don't.
Yes. My
My
favorite is baked stuff, but I don't know that they have that outside of Rhode Island or Mass. Sorry, I'm still getting the weird feedback thing.
Well, we're about to wind down, but so what is there anything else that you are working on for tomorrow that people should look out for? Or
I mean, right now I'm trying to get over my hangover, but that's really what I'm looking.
But you're drinking, is that
it's hair of the dog, okay? That's the thing.
I think
no.
I think Darren, I'm going to invoke Darren a lot on
Thank you, Durwood. I'm going to call him Durwood now.
Yes. Well, I'm sure your 1 p.m. I support day drinking. I'm not.
Yes.
I don't judge. So.
And technically, it's 3 p.m. for me, sir.
All right. Yes.
Chicago. Which is it's Sunday. Yeah. Thank you, Leah.
Right. The one thing before we go. So a lot of Broadway shows are still having trouble with the pandemic and people, just a general economic issue. So Strange Loop, which was very well received and great.
I've been dying to see it, and
you've got until January.
We'll see if I can pull that off. But I really, really wanted to see that one. That was like one of my main ones that I wanted to see, like that and 6. And yes, I do want to see the new Funny Girl. Like,
yeah,
I'm a terrible person.
No, my a college friend of my wife saw it this weekend and was posting on Facebook like she was blown away, and like, but Leah Michelle is the greatest star, which is of course a reference to, but she is very she's great. Yeah. I'm very excited because Barbra Streisand has sort of her live album from 1962 is coming out on November 4th. I've already pre-ordered it, and it sounds like amazing. There's one like song that they pre-released, and it's amazing. So,
I haven't even heard it. I love her so much.
It's great. You should check it out. It's and I love albums of sort of that vibe of like a great singer and a smoky club type vibe. Those are great I enjoy listening to. So there are positive things to look for, even though if all the
Yes. Well,
Crabs are
I
dying.
mean, Real Housewives of Potomac is on tonight, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, enjoy.
I have awesome priorities in life. Fuck all of you.
All right. Well, thanks
My
everyone.
shirt actually says polite as fuck. So I'm keeping with the theme.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We actually might be pre-recording next week because I am going to be in LA. So I have a event, but I am so I will see all of you in some form. Thanks. Take care. And
hold on. Here we go. Oh, we're both pressing it. Sorry.
a great movie.
Yes, Night of the Living Dead.
You're doing a wonderful Halloween celebration here.
Yes. Good job, guys.
I will see you guys soon.
All right, and I'll press the end button.